it does now, but also training and also guidance in that direction. So I think there's a great amount of potential in the lucid dream state that we haven't really more than scratched the surface, as they say, in this culture. And obviously the Tibetan dream yoga going back a millennia shows that, well, of course, in what to me is the most important area, there it is, deeply pursued. And so it shows it can be done. So that's very encouraging to me too.
So do you think from the kind of lucid dream to bring into what they call, I don't know, next stage or into the dream yoga thing? I'm sure you also did a little study or research in dream yoga. So what do you think, how kind of lucid dream in dream yoga can be kind of hand to hand?
Well, the curious thing, after tonight you would have a different answer for me to this, because you'll hear the rest of my approach of taking lucid dream content as an occasion to face, here is a person that I at first feel is bad, I want to get rid of, shadow figures, to embrace them, to accept them, to treat all dream figures as sentient beings, whether they are or not, but to treat them that way, treat them as worthy of love. And that attitude of acceptance of everyone, everything I find, is I feel it furthers the goal of integration, of being inwardly one, instead of sliced up into many little pieces of the part that I don't want, hasn't gotten accepted or reinforced. That's not me. I say I'm the part that gets rewarded, the good one. I do things right. It's other people who are wrong and bad. That distorts your mental model of the self in a way that is very bad for us and others. And so the fact that we can use lucid dreaming to work on that level, I think, is very important. But the next thing is that, all right, you can do that, then what? Then, this is the first stages of dream yoga is to recognize the nature of the dream state, or to say, to become lucid, to be there. And then the next stages, as I read it, are find out that how it's transformable and how you can modify all the content, which teaches you that it's all modifiable. It's all the nature of the dream is it's all mental stuff. It can be changed by mind. And yes, and all that is what comes directly, I think, from lucid dreaming, especially the next level that we'll be talking about tonight too, which is to say, dream couch, right? Dream wall, okay, and dream pillow, right? Yes, dream yogi, and what's this? This is a dream hand, a dream shirt, dream Stephen. So this, who I think I am, is a dream, an idea of me, not actually some solid entity. It's an idea, and that is transformative. It's not just the contents of the dream are all a dream, but I'm a dream as I have always perceived me, and as the me, that is, because there's another element that I think isn't dreamlike, and that so we can, by direct action and reflection on the dream itself, and really reasoning about the dream, understand that it's all like this. It all can be transformed, and that this experience right now, I can't just transform, the couch here by wishing it so, because the rules are somewhat different. But my experience of the nature of what I see and feel and where I am is the same as in the dream. And I said for various reasons, including where else would I experience my experience? It's in one place, it's the mind, or consciousness, you might say. And so then the next step after that is saying, here I am in the lucid dream state, and I've learned what I can easily learn pretty much by looking around and thinking rationally about the nature of my situation. But now I want to see, can I learn more? Is there something more that, it's not obvious by just looking around? How can I do that? And basically the idea of surrender, of saying, a part of me, let's say, has more wisdom than the part that usually is in control, which is called the dream ego or the executive self. But let's say there's a deeper part that has deep knowledge. Let's assume that exists. The same as the teacher who told me about I was going wrong with flying away from fear instead of facing it, working or whatever. And that was Idris Shah, Sufi teacher. That's why I thought I could have him visit in a dream, because Sufis are known for doing that sort of thing. But the point is, there's some levels of wisdom available, and I want to be guided by them. So I'm opening myself to say, let this dream be an expression of that highest wisdom, or the highest. And if I could get myself into that openness, that frame of mind to say, what can I see? Show me, what can I learn? So it's very open-minded, open-ended, not a deliberate control, I want to do this thing. It's instead an opening. And had some very profoundly life-changing or worldview-changing, really, experiences that changed my view of what it is to be myself at the very core, what I was before I was and what I'll be after death, which is the same thing, at least in that view. And it came from a dream. And I don't know whether I should take about a minute to describe the dream I'm going to tonight. The dream starts with my driving in a little sports car I had down the beautiful country road, green hills like those. So it's a direct entry into the dream state, and I think, what a glorious state, so beautiful. And then I see on the side of the road up ahead a very attractive hitchhiker. This is sort of a theme in the culture of, picking up the hitchhiker and basically story. But the thought I have then is, but this dream is supposed to be seeking the highest. Right? And at that little bit of renunciation, basically giving up the obvious pleasure for the highest, the car just started to fly upward with me in it. And as it flew further up, the car disappeared. And I found myself going through clouds with symbols of traditional religion, Star of David and a steeple and a cross, all religions in the clouds. And then I fly further and my body has disappeared now, just as the car fell away. And then I enter into a vast empty space and beyond the clouds. And it feels I'm amazed and astonished. It's a sense of homecoming. I never, emptiness sounds like a cold nothing, but it wasn't. It was almost the opposite of that. It was a sense of expanding to the entire empty space of the universe, and with this feeling that it was the entire cosmos was somehow perfect, just in the way it was. And I started singing songs of praise, and that songs of praise is something like, I praise thee, O God, somehow. But I didn't mean God, I didn't mean me. Those words didn't mean what they seemed here, but it expressed that sense of and resonating with the cosmos. But the thing that made the big difference is when I came back down. As I woke up from that, I said, wow, what was that? Because it was an answer to, I want a dream to show me the highest. But yet in a sense it was upward, but that's not the sense of highest. It was taking away different levels and paring down to the kernel that was the emptiness. And in that kernel, much more space inside than outside, or bigger inside. It was infinite. But the understanding I had as I thought about that dream, really unpacked it. What's it about? What is it showing me? Many things, including the necessity of renunciation, to having given something up. I didn't choose to do that, it just happened to happen. But it showed to myself my sincerity. Because if I said, oh, well, maybe later I'll do that thing, that wouldn't have been it. So I really genuinely wanted to experience this. Once that happened, the elements that fall behind me are the things that it's what my awareness is, where I'm seeing. So where right now is the source of being? Say where is the source of being, the origin, that somewhere, if you even take the Big Bang, say, well, where is that? And the answer became clear. It's here. Where else would it be? Right here. And that wherever you may be, but the here is then obscured by layer on layer on layer of desires, like the hitchhiker, the obscurations that come from the things that I think are important and I'm pursuing, are there. And then, perceiving the dog and perceiving all those other levels block seeing what's just here. That emptiness, that void, I guess you call it now. And it was clear to me that it was present always, but just not visible because of the kind of mind. And the other element that came clear to me then is I was thinking about the paradox of individual and unity, and how is it that we seem to be separate, different, yet another sense one. And I thought of it as from that change of perspective in returning home to the void. So here I am, call me this snowflake, a drop of frozen water, of course, but a snowflake, they're known, everybody knows, each snowflake is individual, right? Well, I don't know how we know that, but that's what they say. Everyone is, so here I am, look at this wonderful crystalline form. Don't you let my flakiness miss. So this is what we identify with. I'm this particular pattern, right? And you're falling into the sea of death. And what you think is that I'm about to be annihilated. I'm going to disappear, I'm going to melt, and I'll be nothing. That's what you think from the Western point of view of what death and annihilation would be. But when you hit the surface of the water, you experience an infinite expansion of your being as you remember that you are water. You're this one little droplet of frozen water, but what you really are is the sea, water itself, and that is what we all share in the metaphor. And of course it's a metaphor, it's not literally the case, but it's one that really captures the way that we can be essentially the same, yet can identify with the formal differences.
In a dream, like for example, we talk about Tibetan Buddhism. So there are like a kind of three type of dream. One is just happening, put it that way, happening within, like in a you call it brain or within the body. And another type of dream is sometimes it comes from the past life, for example. You're kind of entering into the past life. You can call it past life, subconscious or whatever, the deeper layers.
Past history in any case, yes.
Yeah. And then there are third kind of dream, which is like you're going beyond. Beyond in a sense, in the same time that you are meeting with another being in that dream realm, and you are having a real conversation with another being who is sometimes strangers, sometimes they are your parents. So what do you think like a dream is? Is it really just happening within the brain, kind of all these things, or do you have some, I don't know, in this 40 years of experience, is that like a past life things happening and then going beyond, I don't know, like a synchronicity?
I think I understand the question about what are the sources of dreams. Clearly, there are some sources that we can identify in recent experience, right? Because we have dream content that day residue from things that just happen right when that appears. So we know that's one contributor. In my view, the dream is always a construction, though. It's always coming. You're building something that is a model of some bit of the world, and where you get the information to determine what you build can vary tremendously. And it's something like, while we're awake, we have the strong input from senses that then constrain what we experience. And you remove the sensory input, you can see much subtler influences. So in the exact image of the, if you look into the sky now, you don't see what's there, which is an uncountable number of stars, because of the one local star overwhelms your perceptions of the more subtle ones there. In the same way, in the dream state, when you have the sensory input that normally predominates, you remove that, then it opens the door to all kinds of subtler influence, some of which come from memory, from your mental patterns of what you can expect might happen, how things can work, your experience. And I would include in that, so when we say past lives, certainly Stephen's had a number of past lives in this one. I mean, in the last 70 years, I can think of about 7, really, that were different lives, doing different kinds of things entirely. I call them that. So in a sense, and we dream about those because we find ourselves back in high school or in a different situation than the one we're in now. Usually, unless we become lucid, we don't notice that here I am in that one again, but their surroundings seem appropriate. So we have the same kinds of concerns as we did in high school, if that's where it is. And,
so when I say like a past life, not from this life, it's more, sometimes people kind of dream, it's totally not really they watch movie or novels, but they can speak that language, or they're totally in a different kind of.
Yes. And I'm saying, I don't think I've ever had. I certainly haven't had an experience that convinced me in any way of that sort. But I can see the parallel, is what I'm saying, to past lives. But it interests me. Past lives, woof, woof, woof. Is that Lynn coming? I think it might be Lynn. So don't bark, it's a friend. Yes, all right. Thank you for the idea of past lives, that is where Stephen is somebody else in a past life, but somehow there's a thread that identifies, it's Stephen plus a tattoo, or Stephen plus a middle name that's the same. But that's, I don't know, it feels like the identity is a bit too tight for me, because it's like, in that model I was in, snowflake, here's one frozen droplet. And when it falls into the ocean, it becomes the entire ocean, not a single, the microscopic entity that it is doesn't persist, not in that metaphor. But obviously there are other ways it might. Say, maybe there's a little nucleation center that is what causes snowflakes to form in the clouds, and maybe that gets recycled and builds another one like it, which is different now. So I could see it's possible, of course, that we have different lives like this. But
did you meet anyone like who kind of remember their past life, or maybe can just say exists to past life through the dream? during your whole list?
Well, I hear people that try to remember these things by hypnosis, etc. But it's again something where it's plausible but not compelling.
Okay.
I mean, it's difficult, and I know there are ways that you could get pretty convincing evidence of this by special kinds of knowledge and all, but it's hard to control all that info, because if you ask people about some out-of-body experiences, you'll hear people say, "Oh, well, I know there's proof showing that you look and see things that you couldn't see otherwise, and you actually see them; they really are there, and all that." The problem is when you investigate the details of stories like that, you find out not quite, because we redo stories to make sense to us, right? Our memories are revised constantly to fit what we think happened, and so it is hard to do scientific kinds of experiments on a case like reincarnation. So a person is, let's just say, the same person in some sense, or some part of their being gets passed on to another person entirely. Well, aside from having to define which parts of the person that would be, to find it happening, then there's the challenges of one, discovering when you think it has happened, but I think there are difficulties with seeing when it hasn't. But I'm not particularly skeptical about this at all. I mean, it's just I don't have any experience, and I'm inclined to to say, well, okay, I'm open to seeing more.